Things you need to know about clearance cards. Welcome to the DPS 7 Points podcast. I'm your co-host, Warren Trent.
And I'm Sergeant Kameron Lee with the Department of Public Safety's Public Information Office.
Good to see you, young man.
Good to see you. And we are here with a special guest, Christy Shafer, who is a records supervisor over fingerprint clearance cards or the clearance card section.
There we go.
AKA the fingerprint clearance card unit, fingerprint clearance cards. You know, I guess it's gone over some.
It's a mouthful.
It's gone over
It
some
is.
name changes
It is.
over time, but from the clearance card section. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here today with you.
Thank you. One of the things that we're hoping to kind of get out of our conversation is some education for the public, those that are looking to get their own fingerprint clearance cards or their clearance cards. And maybe we can help them with the process, simplify it, maybe go over some things that you want them to know, some things to avoid, and some ways to maybe speed the process up. But before we do that, we want to get to know you a little bit better.
Okay.
And you have some professional experience prior to DPS life.
Yes.
So can you maybe start the beginning where you're
Sure.
from?
Tell us about you.
Let's work chronologically to where we are now.
Of course. Yeah, so I come from a completely different background. I come from a background of medicine. I had left medicine and was looking for something to do, and I was always really a public servant in that role, with trying to always help people. I've always loved doing that and giving back to the community. And so I thought about DPS and Department of Public Safety. We also, I shared a lot of the same missions and the values that they have, and it just seemed like it was a good fit. So I came here, and I've been with the department for about a little over 5 years now.
Well, you said medicine. I got to ask. Nuclear medicine.
Nuclear medicine,
So,
yes.
well, tell me about that.
Yeah, so it's basically the study of disease processes, right? So we are, unlike if you were getting an X-ray or a CAT scan, where the machine is the source of the radiation, our patients are the source of the radiation we're injecting. So you're calculating and figuring up these radiopharmaceuticals, and we're not so much treating, we are identifying and following the patterns of disease processes. So cancers, and there's all types of different studies that we do.
I love, one of the things I love about this podcast, I think the most is the people that we talk to and getting to know them better and their background and history prior to DPS.
Right.
You know, we've talked about this before, but the agency is obviously comprised of our sworn troopers, and they're out there, and you see them on the roadways, and they're taking bad guys to jail. But half of our agency is on the professional staff side, the regulatory, administrative. And over the years, we get tasked with things, whether it be from the legislature or others, to do certain things, and that ends up in the hands of our professional staff folks, which is what we're going to talk about today, and that's our clearance card unit. So you're the supervisor for the clearance card unit.
I am.
And what does that entail? What do you do?
I don't really consider myself, even though that's my title, I'm very much into leadership and mentorship. So for me, I am more of a leader there, I feel, than a supervisor. We have a great team of people that are just phenomenal. They all work together. We have one half that starts the process, and we have the other half that kind of brings it to fruition. So we're actually just one hub in the whole wheel of getting a clearance card. There's so many different departments and avenues that are involved with the process. We have our biometrics unit, that's involved with that. And then, of course, we have other people that come into play.
I love what you talked about leadership, just real quick to touch on.
Right.
It's really about surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean as a leader you have to know, and I don't want to make this about leadership, but it doesn't mean you have to know everything. You just need to surround yourself with the people that can help put all that together, like you said. So I love what you said about that.
I find out every day how much I don't know, because and it comes from the craziest sources, people that you would think wouldn't know anything about maybe what you don't understand, and they can just, they're a wealth of information. So I love that. I learn something new every day.
So you have like a collaborative leadership style? Or?
Absolutely, I do.
Yeah.
It's very rare. Actually, my team will tell you it's very rare that I will come in and say, okay, we must do this, because we must do this, you know. Generally speaking, everything is on a collaborative basis.
Means you're a good listener.
I'm working on that.
I think we could probably all improve in that way.
I work on that.
Yeah. No, that's all good. So I got to tell you, so I come from a broadcasting background where it's like FCC meant Federal Communications Commission. I come here, FCC means something totally different.
Yes.
So tell us, so it's called, we know what it's called, but it's an acronym for, that's short for what?
What, for the
FCC here?
Oh, the fingerprint clearance
Yes,
card.
yeah. So yeah, that's, even though it's officially called something else now.
Yes,
It's, like I said, it's gone through many iterations or whatever.
It has, yes.
Give us a little history of this unit.
Okay.
What we are tasked with doing, and
Sure.
maybe we can touch on briefly who's required to have it, because we know there's a whole array of employers out there that are required to have their.
Well, the clearance card section was initially created in 1998. And after its inception, we have found that it's continually growing. There are increasingly numbers of agencies, of employers, of individuals where they are requiring more and more background checks to be done fingerprint-based. So that's where we come into play, because we are strictly, fingerprint-based with our background checks that we do.
So is it just one, and I guess I'm saying this knowing the answer, is it just one profession that requires
No.
fingerprints? And then
Yeah.
to expand that, there's several different types of cards that you have to get depending on the profession that you're
Yes.
going into or what you're looking to do. So we could maybe
Yes.
talk about that real quick.
Yeah, right now we have approximately about 70 statutes that we operate under, and that is continually increasing.
70?
70?
70.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, yeah.
Yes, and
Okay.
that is continually increasing. So that's where I'm saying, ever since its inception, this is what we're looking at. Because, how DPS, you're here to protect the citizens of the state of Arizona, right? Well, we're doing that as well, except we are protecting the vulnerable, people that's out there, those populations that are out there. And by doing that, we are having clearance cards so we can find out, are those people okay to be in certain positions? We have different types of cards, and there's a lot of misconception that happens with these cards. A lot of people think that, because we're always having we want you to have a level 1 clearance card, but there's little subcategories under those. So we have an IVP, level 1 clearance card, which is an identity verified print. And what that essentially means is that goes through a chain of custody. The same background happens as a non-level 1, a non-IVP. However, the prints are just not returned to the individual. And there's a misconception thinking that IVP is a better card. So everyone wants their employees to have this level 1 IVP card, when in reality, it's the same background check as the non-IVP. It's just what the statutes are that it operates under. So the IVP clearance cards are intended for those under the Department of Education. So we're looking at teachers, tutors, vendors that are operating on the school premises. We're looking at school bus drivers, parents that want to go on field trips with their children. Those are all things that fall under that IVP clearance card. The non-IVP clearance card falls under everything else, meaning maybe you're a caregiver, maybe you're going to adopt, maybe you're working as an IT professional somewhere that they're requiring this, a massage therapist. These are all things where you need a non-IVP clearance card. So I just wanted to clear that up a little bit, because it's not that it's a better card, it's just different statutes.
So what's the turnaround time for getting a card?
It's really depends on you as the applicant. If you have great prints, we don't need to go and get any fresh prints from you because maybe they were smeared or whatever the case might be. And we pass them through the state, we pass them through the FBI, and we don't get what we call a hit because we do look at 99 years, unlike some other places. So we are very strict on that here in Arizona. But if you have never been arrested and the prints are good, that could be a matter of days. Any of those other caveats that happen where maybe we need to reach out to our different court systems to try to get a disposition on a charge to find out what happened, meaning was it found guilty, was it dismissed, whatever the case may be. That can take weeks, just depending on what's going on. So we try to stay away from time frames. It's really up to the individual and their history is how long it's going to take.
So I'm going to assume that many employers, especially the larger employers, will be able to guide and probably help their employees.
Yes.
Route them to where they need to go to get the prints and to get the correct card. But let's say I'm told, hey, I need a fingerprint clearance card, but I'm not really given specifics.
Yes.
And I want to go into this field or that field. Where would I go to find that information? How do I start that process and make sure that I get the right card so that I'm not having to do it over?
Yes. Well, our public service portal is a wealth of information. You can go on there and find out pretty much anything that you need to know. It will walk you right through the process of it. In a nutshell, generally speaking, if you need to, let's say that you wanted to do a paper application, you would fill out your application, you would submit your payment with a cashier's check or money order to us, along with your fingerprints, which you can go anywhere you like to get your prints done, and you can send that to us and we will start processing for you. If you went onto the public service portal, you have the option of using one of our vendors who can actually submit electronically to us the prints. We're not having to deal with the mail system, so it's incredibly fast. It's really speeding up that first group of time that seems to take forever when you're going with a paper route. So, but on that portal, it walks you through everything you need to do.
So we go to AZDPS.gov. There's services there. We can find the fingerprint services.
You sure can.
It will take us to that public safety portal. Is that what it's called, the public safety portal?
It's PSP.azdps.gov, and that's the public service portal. And
Perfect.
It has clearance card right there. You click on that and it will just walk you right through and answer all your frequently asked questions.
And
How long is a clearance card good for?
It's good for 6 years.
6 years, okay.
Yes.
Either card, IVP
Either
or
card,
okay.
as long as someone doesn't zig when they should have zagged and get a suspension or something like that, it's good for 6 years. I did want to also touch on briefly when we're talking about approvals or denials of a clearance card.
Sure.
If you do happen to get, because there are some things, maybe it's a shoplifting charge, something like that we would have to deny you getting a clearance card. We do offer, there is a separate secondary process that you might be eligible for, and you'll receive a denial letter stating the next steps to do that, and that's through the Arizona Board of Fingerprinting. So I did want to throw that out, that if you do get denied, it's not always the end of the road. There are other options that we have available to us sometimes, depending on what the charges are.
Well, Ken, you brought up a point about let's say shoplifting or whatever. What if something happens after you get your clearance, or can your card be revoked?
Absolutely. So we are notified immediately of the arrest, and then we suspend the card, and then that is up to you to go ahead and, work on getting that suspension lifted or whatever the case may be. And if you give us a call, we're always more than happy to go ahead and walk you through, what you need to be doing and what your various options are for that. So we have that as well.
So we spoke to someone from the concealed weapons permit unit, and obviously you're two separate things.
Yes.
The initial process is somewhat the same as they have an online process and a paper process. But one of the things we really discussed is how valuable the online process is and how expedited it has become.
It really has.
So, you know, not that we're going to force you one way or another on how you want to do this, but if you want to get it done quickly, we highly recommend going online and starting that process.
Absolutely.
So,
yes.
And that's going to the portal. You create an account there, which is nice because that allows you to kind of track your own progress.
Yes.
I believe there is a way that you can do it as a guest. If I'm not mistaken.
There are different, so, and this is another way, if you don't currently have your physical clearance card and an employer is asking about it, you can always certainly go onto our portal, and under clearance card, you can check your status of what you are, and it will show your name, your information, and that you're valid or not valid, whatever the case may be. So that's showing that, yes, you know, you do have a valid clearance card. So that's another nice option of that.
I love that process. And to remind the public, we don't fingerprint here in-house for the public. So you do have to go to a local sheriff's office or a police station.
Yes.
I know that we have this service that we contract with. Is it Field Print?
Yes, Arizona Fingerprint.
Arizona Fingerprint.
Yes, yes.
And that's digital.
That is all digital. They do have the authority to go ahead and send us digital prints. So it's nice. We get them within 24 hours. So, and there's a lot of misconception with that, you know, live scan is a name that's thrown around a lot. That just means that they are not taking wet prints of your fingers, right, in the ink. But it does not mean that they are submitting it electronically. They are still mailing those to us. So if you do use the portal, then you do have that option of going through Arizona Fingerprint, which is really expedites the process for you.
I know on the sworn side, on the trooper side, we're moving more and more to using digital prints too. When we arrest somebody and book them, we're using digital prints. There's not much rolling of the ink anymore as there used to be.
Yes.
So how many people, maybe a two-part question, how many people are working in this unit processing these clearance cards? And do you have any idea how many we process annually or any type of number like that?
We do approximately about 230,000 applications per year.
230,000.
Nearly a 250,000.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And that's increasing, you know, because as these agencies and different people are more and more, they're requiring these fingerprint-based background checks. Well, we're getting more applications. I'm very happy to see that the majority of those do come through our portal, which is very nice. But we do have a portion as well of paper applications. And this department, the clearance card section, is responsible for getting all of those, making sure everything is correct. The prints, you know, are submitted to our biometrics to start processing. The payments are processed. They do all the data entry, the quality control of everything. And then once they start the process, then of course, if there are any issues with backgrounds, then the administrative assistants take over and do all the research and bring that process to fruition.
But what's the cost?
Yeah, so we have two different fees. The majority of the statutes, I guess, that we have that we charge for are $67. There are a few volunteer statutes where they charge $65 for that. Yes.
So I guess one of my other questions would be, if you had the Arizona public in one place,
yes,
and you could tell them one thing about this unit to help them maybe speed the process up, or what you would like them to really know that would even make your guys' job easier, because it is very apparent that you are very, very busy.
Yes.
You don't have downtime.
No.
So, you know, we say that, hey, we can help you and you can help us at the same time. What would that be?
I would have to say respectfully, please read the instructions. and follow those and make sure that you're paying attention to when you're filling out the forms. There are certain things where we just absolutely cannot accept it if certain things are not done properly. So, it's very important to sign your application, sign your fingerprint card, things like that, so that those do not get returned and delay the process for you.
And going online is one thing. If I want to do the physical process, where do I get those packets from?
Yeah, so we no longer supply the non-IVP packets anymore. You can pull those off of line. You can actually print those applications. As far as the IVP process goes, again, you can go ahead and apply there. If you choose to not go through field print for your electronic fingerprints, then you can go ahead and you can you let us know and we'll send you a packet, because again, there is a chain of custody with those prints. So the technician that takes your fingerprints, they're the ones that must send that packet back. So that's just the little caveat if you don't go through electronic submission of the prints.
How many, and maybe I should have asked this question before we even started, because you may not even have the answer to it. So if you don't, that's perfectly okay. Out of how many we do, how many denials are we seeing? And maybe even not for criminal history, but because maybe something's not legible or it's not signed or...
So how many denials, not for the clearance card itself, but just for errors?
Well, maybe both.
Okay.
Maybe both. Maybe let's do errors,
Right.
and then maybe
Yes.
you have some idea of how many we're
Yeah.
having to deny because of other issues.
I would say probably on a daily basis, we could have anywhere from, and again, we're getting in quite a large quantity. So we could probably have maybe 10 to 15 ones that we will send back. I do everything that I can along with the staff, meaning that we will reach out and physically call the person and try to do as much as we can so that we don't have to send it back, because, that's just really going to delay them. And I know that people's livelihoods are on the line a lot of times because they need this for their employment. So we try to stay away from that as much as possible. As far as actual denials, I really don't know. I know that we do have quite a considerable amount because we are so strict. We've had a poor fellow from maybe the 1947 that had a little charge, and we have to deny him for that, but he can go through the Board of Fingerprinting. So I know the Board of Fingerprinting does get a lot of cases. I just don't know the exact data on that.
And I think we want it that way, right? We want it to be strict, but also we are glad that there is a process for those that, like you mentioned, maybe something years ago or when they were younger, a late teenager, that they have that process to say, hey, I've rectified my life, I've changed, whatever it may be, and they can continue to get that card. So I love that we
because everyone has a history, it seems. My goodness, I think if we didn't have that process, there may not be many people with a clearance card. Everybody's made mistakes, and what we look for are, what have you done since?
Right.
So
I know, like troopers like Sergeant Lee, they're the face of the agency.
Yes.
But your team, you're also providing a valuable service to not only the agency, but also to the people of Arizona, as you had mentioned. How gratifying is this?
Tremendously. That's why I do it. I love the feeling of knowing that not only are we protecting people, from predators or whoever it might be, which is an incredible feeling, knowing, that, but we're also enabling people to get on with their lives, to be able to do what they need to do to support their families and through education, through issuing these cards so that they can get into the workforce. And it's very gratifying to me.
That's quite the change from what you were doing previously to what you're doing now.
Yes.
So
no one's died once on me.
That's a good thing,
right? So to the public, to those of you that are looking for a change or looking for something else to do, this is an option, right? Because we're always looking for people to work for us, not only on the sworn side, but also on the administrative regulatory side. We need really good people, those that are willing to work and those that have a sense of commitment to doing something, greater. And I don't want that to sound cliche in any way, shape, or form, but this doesn't work without what you guys are doing. This whole cog does not turn without the folks on the administrative side. So thank you for what you do and for being here, for helping share this information with us, because I've learned a lot just sitting here talking to you, and hopefully we can educate the public and make your job a little bit easier, get them their clearance cards a little bit faster.
There we go. That's the goal.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Christy.
Well, thank you.
Actually, it's been great talking to you. And thank you, everyone, for listening and watching to the 7 Points Podcast. We'll see you next time.